Before sunrise, a quiet city became the center of a federal investigation that revealed how organized crime can hide inside ordinary places. The operation began in the early morning hours, when most people were asleep and the streets were nearly empty. Analysts had been tracking a pattern of suspicious activity that pointed to a narcotics network operating quietly across several neighborhoods. What first appeared as isolated incidents slowly formed a larger picture. Cash movements followed predictable cycles. Encrypted messages appeared at consistent times. Vehicles traveled familiar routes late at night and returned before dawn. Each detail on its own looked harmless, but together they suggested coordination and intent. Federal teams analyzed weeks of data and compared it with older records. Names appeared repeatedly under different addresses and phone numbers. Financial activity did not match reported income, and delivered logs used vague labels to avoid notice. What emerged was not disorder, but design. The network was built to blend into everyday life, not disrupt it. Once approval was granted, agencies moved with coordination and restraint. The objective was safety and accuracy, not visibility. Teams targeted locations already linked to prior cases, unresolved warrants, or financial irregularities. Pre-dawn timing reduced public risk and limited the chance of evidence being removed. As teams advanced, the city remained still. Residential buildings near a campus area appeared ordinary. The lights were off and the doors were closed. Inside, investigators found intentional concealment. Phones were hidden, documents were stored out of sight, and cash was carefully wrapped and placed where routine checks would miss it. Detentions followed standard procedure. Individuals were identified, separated, and questioned. Devices were secured for forensic review. No assumptions were made based on appearances. Every step focused on evidence and verification. By sunrise, several people were in custody, and a growing collection of digital devices was on its way to analysts. The next phase unfolded in quiet rooms filled with screens and secure servers. Specialists began unlocking phones and reviewing data. Messages were written in coded language that avoided obvious references. Ordinary words stood in for quantities and location. Spreadsheets tracked movements with symbols instead of numbers. When decoded, the information pointed to repeated transfers of heroin, fentanyl, and synthetic chemicals. One detail stood out. Multiple devices referenced the same location outside the city, an abandoned industrial area that appeared again and again in travel histories. GPS records showed late-night visits followed by long periods of inactivity. This location was not random, it functioned as a hub. A second operation was planned with greater caution. Intelligence suggested that weapons could be present. Teams prepared for resistance while prioritizing safety. Drones surveyed rooftops and entrances. Heat signatures confirmed activity inside the structure. The building itself was unremarkable, surrounded by rusted fences and broken concrete. It looked forgotten, which made it useful. Entry was swift and controlled. Inside, the smell of chemicals confirmed what data had already suggested. Containers held narcotics and precursor materials. Equipment capable of preparing large quantities was arranged for efficiency. Cash was stored in bricks, labeled and counted. Ledgers detailed routes across multiple states. This was not a temporary stash, it was a working center. Several individuals were detained on site, including a person investigators identified as a coordinator. Devices recovered from the building provided immediate confirmation. Messages referenced scheduled shipments and assigned runners. Maps marked distribution points with dates and initials. The operation had leadership, logistics, and reach. As evidence was cataloged, the scope widened. Analysts connected the new data with existing cases in neighboring states. Phone numbers matched contacts under surveillance elsewhere. Financial trails linked to shell businesses that moved small amounts to avoid alerts. Over time, those amounts added up to millions. What made the network effective was its use of normal environments. Exchanges took place in parking lots, laundromats, and near everyday businesses. Couriers blended in because they looked like everyone else. The system relied on familiarity rather than fear. As the investigation progressed, public attention grew. Statements from officials and responses from agencies created debate. Allegations and denials competed for headlines. Investigators remained focused on the evidence. Devices, ledgers, and financial records spoke clearly. The facts described the network that had operated quietly by avoiding attention and exploiting routine. Within days, analysts produced a comprehensive map of the operation. It showed clusters of activity, transit routes, and points of contact. The industrial site was central, but not alone. The network extended outward through layers designed to protect leadership and keep operations running even if one part failed. Another discovery deepened concern. Some records outlined plans to expand into new areas. The language suggested confidence and expectation of longevity. This was not a group preparing to disappear. It was a system planned to grow. As arrests continued, teams coordinated with agencies across jurisdictions. Warrants expanded, financial monitoring increased, accounts were frozen, transfers were halted. Each action reduced the network's ability to function, but analysts understood that dismantling such a system required patience. Midway through the investigation, public debate intensified. Some questioned the impact of enforcement on innocent residents. Others emphasized the risk posed by narcotics distribution and weapons. Officials reiterated that the focus remained on criminal activity, not communities. Evidence guided every decision. At this point in the story, if you value clear reporting and careful investigation, please like the video and subscribe to the channel so that this work can continue to reach more people. Behind the scenes, forensic teams worked through the night. Voice messages revealed coordination with contacts outside the state. Shipping documents showed routes disguised as ordinary commerce. Several packages intercepted earlier in other regions now made sense as part of the same chain. The investigation also revealed how the network managed money. Small transfers moved through multiple accounts, each step appearing routine. Digital wallets provided another layer of distance. This approach reduced risk and delayed detection. As more names surfaced, some suspects disappeared. Phones went dark. Travel records showed sudden departures. These movements confirmed what investigators already believed. The operation had depth, and parts of it were still active. Despite this, progress continued. Cooperation between agencies closed gaps that the network had relied on. Shared databases allowed faster cross-checking. Patterns that once took months to identify now appeared in days. Communities affected by the investigation faced mixed emotions. Relief that dangerous activity was being addressed existed alongside concern about disruption. Leaders emphasized transparency and the importance of separating facts from fear. Policy discussions followed. Officials reviewed procedures for monitoring financial flows and verifying records. The goal was not to slow legitimate activity, but to strengthen safeguards. Efficiency without verification had created blind spots. As weeks passed, the case continued to expand. New warrants were issued. Additional arrests followed in other states. Each step confirmed that the original discovery was only one part of a larger structure. Investigators reflected on how the operation had remained hidden for so long. The answer was not corruption or chaos. It was normality. The network survived because it looked ordinary and behaved predictably. Officials also recognized the cost of misinformation. Public debate fueled by incomplete facts could undermine trust. Clear communication became a priority, even as details remained sensitive. As evidence was prepared for court, prosecutors focused on building strong cases grounded in documentation and verified records. Digital trails, financial logs, and physical evidence formed a coherent narrative. The investigation demonstrated the value of persistence. Small anomalies, when examined closely, revealed large truths. Patterns emerged because analysts refused to dismiss details that seemed minor. In the end, the operation did not conclude with a single arrest or raid. It continued as a process of accountability. Networks built quietly require sustained attention to dismantle fully. As investigators prepared the next phase, they understood that visibility was now their ally. The network had relied on silence. Exposure changed that balance. The city returned to its routines, but awareness lingered. Ordinary places could no longer be assumed harmless without verification. This case reminds us that truth often emerges quietly, and staying informed is the first step toward keeping communities safe.